guys, today we're driving the all-new 2023 Nissan Z. This now has a 3-liter twin-turbocharged V6 that makes 400 horsepower and 350 pound-feet of torque. We're in the Performance, which is the mid-trim. Comes in at just shy of 50 grand at 49.9. There's also a Sport trim, which is the base model. That's under 40 grand at 39.9. And then there's the Proto spec, which is limited to 240 units. This has a 6-speed manual transmission. There's no price difference between the automatic or manual, and we get a limited slip differential in the rear, a clutch type now. We have electronic power steering. Let's walk you around this new Z. We'll show you what it looks like inside and out. We'll take it for a drive. We've also got some track videos coming up, so we spent some time really hustling this around Las Vegas Motor Speedway, which was super fun. Let's start on the outside. This has 19-inch alloy wheels. These are Rays forged wheels. They look super sharp on this Z. We're on Bridgestone Potenza S007s, two 75/35 R19s in the rear, and two 55/40 R19s in the front. Pretty meaty setup, staggered. The base Sport model has a square setup, 18-inch wheels, 245s on all four corners. This new Z is more aerodynamic. There's much less of a hip line here for the rear haunches in this new Z compared to the 370. First year production is going to be pretty limited, unfortunately, just due to supply shortages and global supply chain issues this year. Similar looking trunk space in the back of this. Revised suspension, increased spring rates, damper rates, tweaked sway bars. I think a really sharp looking car. I love the rear end. Kind of harks back to the Z32, the 300ZX with these taillights right here with the twin design. Love the exhaust tips. And then from the side profile, it's a bit of a homage to the 240Z. Similar proportions, long hood. And then we have this controversial square grille, which actually is there for pure function. So 3-liter twin-turbo V6. This is a lot more power than the 370Z. It needs a lot more cooling, and there are a lot of radiators and cooling units in this front end to make sure that the Z can perform on track and not overheat. And this provides as much cooling as possible while integrating a crash bar in the middle and some safety sensors. Otherwise, this grille is completely open and allowing for as much airflow into those cooling systems as possible. Love the new headlights on the Z, looks super sharp. The DRLs are kind of reminiscent again to the shape of the headlights on the 240. We'll turn those on. And actually, let's pop the hood, take a look underneath at this 3-liter V6. Same engine that we drove in the Q50 Red Sport, tweaked just a little bit for better responsiveness. Sounds nice too. Sound and design are very important parts of the Nissan Z. They always have been, and this really does deliver. You can see those DRLs just a little bit now that the headlamps are on. Really beautiful, nice shape. 2 piston calipers in the rear, 4 piston calipers up front. A nice track-oriented brake setup. Around Las Vegas Motor Speedway, we had a Z with Performance Nismo brake pads, but this is all stock from the factory. Nissan will be coming out with a few performance upgrades for this car. Forged wheels. There might be an exhaust that we'll see pretty soon. That does sound really nice on some of the automatic cars that we drove today. The standard exhaust is a little bit more muted, however. No fancy drive modes in this manual. You just get in and go. You've got a traction control off button. It's just a one press to turn everything off. And then you've got a button over here for your Rev Match downshifts. You can see that right in this digital center display here. A couple different gauge modes, which is pretty cool. We can change our meter view, which this is the Sport gauge display. Put the tach dead center with 7,000 RPM, that red line right at the top, which I love. So we'll go into normal. And this is a little bit more of a familiar Nissan gauge display. You can go and customize a lot of different settings, your driver assistance systems, personalize the display, and then there's a more enhanced, detailed view right here that, again, looks a little bit funky for a sports car. I really like this Sport gauge view. Pretty much gives you all the information you need. You've got oil temperature, oil pressure, differential and water temperatures, and a boost gauge with a couple options for a G meter, upshift indicator, and tire pressures. Yeah, That's really nice. All right, enough talking. Let's go take this Z for a drive. This is a real pleasure behind the wheel. Some slight tweaks and changes with the driving experience compared to the 370Z, but really the big news here is this has 400 horsepower out of this 3-liter twin-turbo V6. Sounds awesome. And it pulls like crazy. Pretty standard reverse camera. A little bit of a disappointment there. It looks pretty old and dated, but that's okay. Again, sports car. We've got a mechanical handbrake, seat controls taken straight from the 370. Same with these heated seats. Pop the trunk. You've got a cup holder right here and another cup holder right here with a sliding armrest, which is pretty clever. And then a button to pop it up there. Pretty open and spacious cabin for a sports car. You've always been able to put a decent amount of stuff in the back of a Nissan Z, and this is no exception. Interior space feels very similar to the 370, aside from a different steering wheel and a couple of screens. Even some window switches and climate control knobs are carried over. Okay, off we go. This is such a quicker car compared to the 370. There's so much torque. These Bridgestone Potenza S007 tires have a lot of grip, but in second it's just barely holding on. Interaction between the pedals, the shifter, the engine revs dropping, all feels very natural, very fluid. If you turn off your active rev matching, it's pretty easy to blip your own throttle. Heel-toe downshifts come pretty easily too with pedal placements. And we have quite a bit of adjustability with the steering wheel, with tilting and telescoping, which I always appreciate. Classic triple gauge setup here in the center. We have boost pressure, turbo speed, and a battery voltmeter. I like the engine sound of this new Z a little bit better than the 370. After about, I think 2016 or so, they started to pipe in engine sounds into the 370, and it just wasn't completely convincing. It sounds a lot more natural and V6-like. Some heel-toe downshifts. Oh yeah, you could really get into a rhythm with this car. The 6-speed manual doesn't love to be rushed, but on the street it just feels fantastic though. The power is amazing. Handling and grip limits are very high. It's a pleasure to drive and cruise around in this thing, and when you want some performance out of it, it really does deliver. There's a yellow one for reference. Looks really sharp. It's almost highlighter yellowish green. I think this is a little bit more of a refined and smoothed out driving experience compared to the 370. The manual gearbox in the 370 was a little bit of a dog to drive sometimes. It was difficult to be smooth with it. And after spending about 30-40 minutes behind the wheel of this, I'm really getting comfortable with this manual. The differences are subtle, but it's a nice improvement. Nissan did a great job pairing this engine with a 6-speed manual, and I've got to say this new 3-liter twin-turbo V6 is, yeah, this is a nice engine for this car. I like the steering wheel too. A nice thin spoke design in keeping with the Z heritage. You don't want to go overly thick. For a while I thought BMW was giving their wheels a little bit too much girth, and this feels pretty good to me. This is just about perfect. It's a nice size. I have great visibility with this fully digital dash here. And one thing Nissan is really doing a good job with these days is integrating technology with usability. So this still feels like a sports car. It's very driver-centric. It's very driver focused, and all of your controls, all of your buttons, your features are easily accessible. You can just press a button to turn on rev matching. You can just press a button to turn on and off traction control. You can do that all very easily, and I appreciate how Nissan has just kind of simplified and integrated all of that tech in this new Z in a very nice and familiar way. I immediately was able to get into this car and pretty much do what I needed to. One complaint that I have a little bit today, bright sunny day just outside Las Vegas, getting quite a bit of reflection and sunlight bouncing off this gloss black with the center screen here. A little bit blinding in some respects, depends on which way you're going with the sun, but one of my few complaints so far about this new Z. That 7,000 RPM red line does come on a little bit early sometimes, so you have to really plan out and think ahead for your 1-2 shifts. Gearing's on the taller side, but with the power from this twin turbo V6, it feels about right. The gear spacing is nice, cruising at 55 miles an hour in 6th yields about 2,000 RPM, and there's quite a bit of torque here, even at 5th gear, 2,500. You step into it, a little bit of turbo lag, and then it starts to pull beautifully. It's such a linear power band that you really kind of forget how fast you're going sometimes. This is a surprisingly quick car on the street, and on the track it had a lot of performance too. Let's turn off rev matching and see what this feels like. You kind of have to hold the button for a second. Pleasantly surprised at how easy this car is to drive smoothly. Just putzing around, just driving normally. It's a real pleasure to use this manual. It's a little bit lighter, a little bit less engaging and involving than the 370, but it's a lot smoother and easier to get those shifts right, which I think makes it a more satisfying car to drive. All right, let's hit it. Feel awesome. Keep forgetting whether I'm in rev match mode or not. Again, it doesn't like you to rush those shifts, but once you get into a rhythm with everything, feels really good. Pretty good turning radius too for a sports car. With this rev matching system a little bit. So we'll put us into S mode. This system feels mostly the same as it did in the 370Z. It's a little bit on the lazier side. Doesn't give you the most immediate blips of the throttle, but it gets the job done. You don't really need to think about shifting and heeling and towing or rev matching. It's a pretty nice system, and it's pretty reliable with your right foot. And it'll kind of take you the rest of the way, which I think is nice. The chassis control here feels very much like a Z. Really wide stance, a lot of initial grip and turn in, pretty good traction from the rear as well. Fun car to hustle on a back road. Great stability at higher speeds too. The steering weights up really nicely around corners, and I actually have a pretty good amount of feedback, especially for an E-Pass system. Not necessarily miss the hydraulic power steering from the 370Z, and that is a very pleasant surprise. It's a very direct system. It's pretty responsive too. Communicates well what the front tires are doing. Just a fun sports car. Nissan has made this a better to drive Z. It's a little bit more fun. I think it looks pretty cool. Jury's still out on that front end, but I can forgive it if it's for function. I'm also impressed with the response from this engine. There's a little bit of turbo lag, but it's pretty immediate once you get on the power. Let's show you guys how to use launch control. So, you have to be in S mode with rev matching, come to a stop, clutch all the way in, gas to the floor. You can adjust this launch RPM with this toggle switch right here. Launch control will pop up. And then you can no-lift shift between gears after launch control is engaged. And the revs will automatically drop. Pretty cool. So that way you don't really lose as much boost between gears and you're on the throttle quicker. It's not like Cadillac or GM system where you can stay into it and get no-lift shift after engaging launch control when you're just driving. No lift shift only engages as a drag racing launch system. But it works pretty well. You can always adjust the RPM at which you launch depending on the grip of the surface. This is pretty grippy pavement right here, so we probably want to launch at a slightly higher RPM. One of the big surprises here is how comfortable this car is to just cruise in. Put it in 6th gear on the highway, set your cruise control. Ride quality is nice. There's not a bunch of wind noise. The engine quiets down. There's actually quite a bit of sound isolation in this new Z. This would make a fantastic road trip car. And that's kind of always been the philosophy of the Z, is for it to be a little bit more of a grand tourer. This really does a nice job. It's a lot more of an open and less claustrophobic cabin than the Supra. And there's much better sound isolation in this on the highway and at speed than in the BRZ or GR86. It kind of hits a sweet spot in terms of performance, daily drivability, practicality, tech. Super well balanced on throttle too. pleasure. You get 3 interior options with the new Z. This black interior, which I think looks great. It's classic, it's simple. There's also the option for a red interior and a blue interior. Rolling into boost in second. That's where this shines. That's very satisfying. Fun car to drive around the city too. You don't have to always be hammering this thing to have fun in it. It's a very enjoyable, satisfying car to just cruise in. You can kind of relax a little bit more in a sports car like this compared to maybe a BRZ or a Miata. It's a little bit more of an effortless driving experience. The extra power, just having that on tap under your right foot, knowing that it's there. You don't always have to dip into it, but just knowing that it's there is satisfying. I really like what Nissan's done here. It's a very well-balanced car. It doesn't love the limit, doesn't love 10/10ths driving, but the Z never necessarily has been made for that. If you want a 10/10ths car, go get a BRZ, go get a Miata. You can just wring its neck. The limit in this car is very fast, and the limit is a little bit more understeery than I was hoping for, especially on track. On the street, you're not really approaching the limit. And on the street, this is just about as perfect of a sports car formula as it gets. It's really well done. Quick, too. Quite quick. Not to be overlooked. Yeah, overall, a very nice package. Well done, Nissan. Let's go drive an automatic and see how that compares. That'll be a separate video. Stay tuned for that. But on first impressions, really pretty top marks for this manual. How does it compare to some of its alternatives in the market? Compared to the BRZ, I don't think it is as raw or engaging, but the power and the overall balance of this car, the way it's set up and the way they've tuned everything, is really quite nice. I'm actually very curious to see how this compares to the new Supra with a manual transmission. Well, I'm sure we'll drive that in a month or two, or maybe even a little bit longer. But that's going to be kind of the real toss-up for people. Do you want a Supra manual, or do you want a new Z manual? This feels a little bit heavier than the BRZ, a little bit heftier. Of course, you've got the twin-turbo engine, which is way more power. It's not as responsive, but it's a very nice evolution of the 370Z, which we have enjoyed for the last decade plus, 12, 13 years. And hopefully this will have a nice long life to its run as well. Unfortunately, there won't be a lot of units available in the first model year just due to global shortages, but if you can get your hands on one, and you're a Z fan or you've had Zs in the past, this is a very nice overall car. Nissan's done a great job developing this new Z, and on first impressions, I love the way it drives. So anyway, we'll leave this video at that. We'll also try to get some driving impressions on a 9-speed automatic car, but for now, this enthusiast spec and the performance model, this is a really sweet package. Okay, that's it for this one. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you later. Get a cool view of the taillights there too. They're almost like 3D LEDs. That's just a beautiful design. I love that. Parking sensors. Love this character line here with this aluminum type piece. Really accentuates how this rear slopes down. Pretty similar looking roofline to the 370Z and even the 350Z, but lots of changes with the rest of this body. Really neat character line too on the side here. And I love this door handle. Look how cool that is. You can lock it right there by pressing that button. Okay, the new Z. There you guys go. Hope you enjoyed the video. We'll see you later.